Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Dan Casper here with you as always. A big thanks for tuning into this episode, where we've got a little grind my gears coming at you at the back end of this episode. In the middle of the episode, I'm going to give you my top 5 things that I want to see the Packers improve on during this bye week. But we're going to begin the podcast by handing out some grades, since it's midterm time for the Packers. It's not straight up just players, because we're grading coaches and the overall offense, defense, special teams and such. So I'll start, and I didn't put Adam Stenavich on here. I know he's offensive coordinator, but combining Matt LaFleur as head coach and the play caller of this team. So I am giving Matt LaFleur a B. I'm giving him an overall B for head coach / offensive play caller. He gets extra credit points for the work that he has done and for the job that he has done when it comes to, game plans, especially with Malik Willis in there. Those were fantastic game plans. And fantastic work with him. And so he gets extra bonus points for that. No question about it. I like what we've seen, really focusing on running the football this year too with Josh Jacobs. I mean, this is, even know that and I know a lot of it's because of injuries to Jordan Love though, but still the focus on the running game this year, I think a lot of people have been happy about it, and it's been working right now with Josh Jacobs. So the focus on that, the game plans, especially with Malik Willis and getting Malik Willis prepared, all that is bonus points there. Where maybe it's not an A right now, I think you look at the pre-snap penalties and those penalties. I think it's both player accountability and also coaching, where coaches have to hold players accountable. And when you look at all of these penalties and issues on there, some of that blame has to go to the coaches, and in this case, it has to go to the head coach and such. And where I knock them down a little bit too is the red zone offense. This is, to me, a little mind-boggling why Green Bay is 29th in the league for red zone offense, just straight up looking at touchdowns. And to me, it's mind-boggling because when we go back to 2019, LaFleur's first year, okay? LaFleur's first year, it was the Packers' second best in red zone offense. 2020, they were the top team in red zone offense. 2021, first year with no Hackett over there. And I mention that because when Hackett was the offensive coordinator for the Packers, he was in charge of red zone. That's why they called it the gold zone. 2021 went down to 18th. 2022, 23rd. 2023, 17th. This year, 29th. Now, I know a lot of people will probably say, well, the first couple of years, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, such. You'd be right. They had there too. But 2021, they still had Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And still dropped down to 18th. I don't know if Hackett is the sole reason. That's one of the big, that's one of the things that's definitely missing out of there. But for a team that has the talent that they have on offense, they've got to figure out their red zone inefficiency right now. They got to be better at this. You cannot be 29th in the league when you've got the talent that you do on the offensive side. And especially when you're playing in the NFC, and specifically the NFC North, where it's a very, very, very tight race, where single games can matter. Got to come away with those touchdowns instead of field goals. So I do knock him down a little bit for that. So that's why he's at a B for me. Jeff Hafley, new defensive coordinator, first year, the first 9 games of his tenure as defensive coordinator. I am going to give him a B plus. I'm going to give him a B plus. I think, maybe that first after Philadelphia and after the first couple of weeks, still kind of, finding out a little bit more about his players. You look at that first game against Philadelphia, and Evan Williams doesn't play a single snap, and now we're talking about him as a crucial player, an important player for this defense. So still trying to find out those, the rotation, what works, who works where, what works best, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's settling into a groove right now. And you look at the improved play from secondary and such, the different mindset, you can tell there's a little bit of a difference here. And I look at second half defense too. Here's some crazy numbers when it comes to the defense. And this is going to go into where I don't necessarily give him an A yet. I don't give him an A because, yes, you could say pressures or run defense. Run defense to me is one, and I still question Quay Walker playing middle linebacker at this point. So I do put that on Jeff Hafley. I don't know if everybody's right now at the position that they're best suited for, but I do give him credit for recognizing, you know what? Eric Stokes and Carrington Valentine, they may not be my second, third best outside corners. He felt like Keyshawn Nixon was a better outside corner, and numbers prove Keyshawn Nixon is having a very solid year as an outside corner. He's gotten that right so far. But these are some interesting numbers for defensive rankings by quarter. Points allowed by quarter, okay? Green Bay's defense, fourth quarter. This was yesterday before last night's game. But I looked up these numbers for today. First quarter, Green Bay's fourth best defense in the first quarter in terms of points allowed. Second quarter, it drops down to 30th. Third quarter, though, gets back to number 10. And then the fourth quarter, second best defense in terms of points allowed. So first quarter, fourth. Second quarter, plummets to 30th, gets back up into the top 10, and then the fourth quarter, it's top 2 defense in terms of points allowed per game. And I think once you start to think back on some of these games, you're like, yeah, second quarter has maybe kind of been an issue a little bit for a few of these games. But I do give Jeff Hafley and this defense a lot of credit. That second half defense, they've really been kind of not completely shutting out teams and shutting down teams, but they've done a nice job of keeping teams out of the end zone for the most part, except for maybe, Jacksonville a little bit over there. So, but I'm going to give Jeff Hafley a B+. I'm going to give him a B+ right now. Jordan Love. I am going to give Jordan Love a C. C- around there. And I know he's been dealing with some injuries. But I will go to what a lot of people will probably, point out as the biggest issue that Jordan Love has to fix, and that's turning the ball over. The interceptions, situational football, when to know, throw it away and live for another down, or when to try to stretch it and try to make a play. It's got to get better at that. You'd think, he's still a little inexperienced. This is just his second year as a starter. You'd think it would continue to get a little bit better. But it's an issue right now. It's an issue. So I think more C. I don't want to do C- there because, he's made some good plays, and you can tell there's a difference in there when he's out on the field. But right now, I'm probably at a C. I'm probably at a C because the turnovers and the decision making, right now they're questionable. They're about 50-50. But I think we can see, because we saw it last year with Jordan Love, we can see areas of improvement. He can do it. He can get better, and he can improve that grade. And he can get it back up, to a B, maybe hopefully even an A by the time the season's over with. But right now, I got to give Jordan Love a C. And offense overall, I'm at about a C plus, B minus. I'm probably C plus, B minus. Yeah, see, because you look at statistics and you look at numbers and you look at the rankings, and Green Bay's top 5, and a lot of it top 10. Whether it's yards per game or passing yards, rushing yards, whatever. They're top 5, top 10 in a lot of those categories. I'm hovering around B minus, C plus, because I'll go back to the red zone, and that red zone offense just has to get better. It's just. That's kind of a grind my gears for me too. Is the red zone offense is just it's infuriating to me when you've got those type of weapons on offense, a tight end, that is such a threat. Different types of receivers, whether it's the big fast Christian Watson, the strong hands of Romeo Doubs, the utility knife of a Jaden Reed, the running attack of a Josh Jacobs. When you've got those options and you stink right now at red zone offense, to me is a big downer in this thing. So while they're moving the ball well, in between the 20s, in between the 30s, they're stacking up those yards and such, I'm probably at a C. And then I'm going to also put in the fact that they keep shooting themselves in the foot with stupid penalties. They'll get on a drive. They'll be moving the football. And then it just gets derailed and stalled because false start, holding, or just a drop pass. It stalls out there. So, yeah, I think, even though that they are top 5, top 10 in some of the statistical categories out there, the fact that they're near the bottom of red zone and with their penalties, offensive penalties and drop passes, I got to drop it down to a C. I have higher expectations. Higher expectations for the offense overall. And right now, they're not quite hitting all of those expectations. But again, kind of like Jordan, I think they have the chance to really raise up that letter grade and get on a run here. Defense overall, I'm at about a B minus, B minus. I mean, the turnovers are obviously the positive. I mean, they've already surpassed last year's turnover totals, interceptions and such. Xavier McKinney has been such a big boost for this defense overall. Evan Williams has been a solid rookie contributor. Edrin Cooper winning Defensive Player of the Week just a couple weeks ago. There's been guys who have been stepping up, younger guys, new guys stepping up into those roles. But we still see some issues with the defense, whether it's generating a pressure, whether it's getting after the quarterback, whether it's at certain points and trying to stop the run. You look at individual players, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, those guys not doing a whole lot right now. So defense, I'm at, overall B minus because, again, we've got some good players contributing, doing well. Keyshawn Nixon, I think, helps improve, again, the overall grade of this defense because I think he's been a nice surprise in terms of his play from the outside corner spot. But again, we're looking at it from an overall perspective. And defense, for me, B minus. Special teams, I'm at a C minus. I know when we did first quarter grades, it was like D, and the only thing that was saving it was the fact that Daniel Whelan is rocketing punts. Can't really get anything from a return game at this point in time. I think McManus is an upgrade. Daniel Whelan is still rocketing it. So the special teams has gotten better in terms of the letter grade from first quarter to the midterm here. But it's, I think, at best average right now. Okay, we got a kicker that I know he missed his first one this past week, but I feel like we're probably a little bit more confident in a veteran kicker. Daniel Whelan, to me, is one of the most underrated punters in the game. But, you don't get a whole lot from the return aspect of it, whether it's punt returns or kick returns now. So I'm at about a C because it's just average for me at this point in time. There's nothing really to run home about, and the fact that they've changed kickers now to somebody that we're maybe a little bit more confident in, all right, they got better. If they didn't make that move and we were still struggling, it's probably D minus or F. But they made a late push here to improve that letter grade here at the midterm. My star student, a lot of people have mentioned this guy. It's Xavier McKinney. To me, my star student is Xavier McKinney. An honorable mention, though, I will say, an honorable mention for star student has to be Josh Jacobs. So I want to talk about Josh Jacobs here for just a little bit because I do think he needs to get some recognition. Josh Jacobs, third in the league in rushing yards. He has been, for a few games this season, been the guy like, you have to carry our offense. The offense runs through him. And he has carried that weight on his shoulders. He has carried that team on his shoulders. Josh Jacobs has been I think we had high expectations for Josh Jacobs coming in here. But if we got to, we're heading into week 10, and if we said Josh Jacobs was the third leading rusher in all of the NFL, I think we'd be like, oh, okay, that's a little surprising. Maybe didn't think top 5, maybe thinking around 10th or something like that. But he's the third leading rusher, third highest rusher in the league heading into week 10. I think that's a nice surprise. And this is a guy he's been dealing with an ankle injury, grinding it out. He's a tough runner in between the tackles, getting through, picking up those tough yardages. So I think, even though Xavier McKinney's my pick, Josh Jacobs does deserve some love out there. He's an honorable mention for star player. But you look at what Xavier McKinney has done with this defense, and we look at what last year's safety group was, just a rotation of a bunch of different guys and trying to make it work, whether it was Darnell Savage, Jonathan Owens, Rudy Ford, Anthony Johnson Jr. The Packers invested a lot of money in Xavier McKinney in the offseason, and it has worked out. Leading in interceptions, the leadership that he provides in the back end, I think he is a big reason why there's an overall improvement in secondary play as well. But Xavier McKinney, to me, is the star player. But Josh Jacobs is right behind him at this point. The player, the student that's doing the best that he can right now. A couple of you mentioned this. I'm going to go Malik Willis, too. You know, when they acquired him, I don't think there was a whole lot of expectations. And the best way to describe the reaction, I think, was, But give him credit. Comes in, leads the team to a couple victories. Indianapolis, Tennessee, then in Jacksonville, leads them down there to a game-winning field goal. Now he's got fans saying maybe he should be playing more. Maybe they should incorporate him in certain packages, maybe down even in the red zone and that. But you got to give it to Malik Willis. Doing the best he can right now, and he's making the most of his opportunities. Malik Willis has been a very nice surprise so far this year. A guy that we can almost rename this one as the most improved player if you want, or the most improved student. But the dude that's going in and putting in the extra work and doing the best he can, I got to go with Malik Willis. And then the student that needs to stay after class, the student that maybe needs to put in a little extra work, maybe needs a little extra help. There's a few players out there that you could probably pick. Go Preston Smith. Can go Lucas Van Ness. We can go Dontavian Wicks. A few people mentioned drop issues over there. I'm going to go for my pick, though, Quay Walker. And maybe that's not 100% fair because I'm of the opinion that I think he needs to move to a weak side, strong side type of linebacker. So I kind of question maybe he's not in that right position. But right now, the play of Quay Walker, sure, he's racking up all the tackles and such, but you watch it and it's just like, guy sometimes gets easily faked out from a running game, goes the wrong direction and such. Is he thinking too much? Is he, instead of reacting and just playing football out there? But I think Quay Walker is the guy that I want to bring in, after class and be like, okay, let's figure out what's going on here. Let's figure out how we can get better. What do we got to do to get you playing better right now? Dontavian Wicks is a good one too, with working on the drops. I mean, Dontavian Wicks was a guy that was coming in his second year with a ton of talk and some hype there. And right now he's going through some drop issues. So that's definitely a very solid pick too for the guy that, let's come in and maybe work on the jugs machine and let's get a little bit better with catching the football and get that drop issue figured out. So no question that's a good one over there too. I will say one other. I do want to. It's kind of bugging me that two players that I'd like to give special recognition for, but I don't know what I would kind of award them or label them. If you've got any teachers listening, maybe you can give me the best. Give me an idea or something like that. But I think we got to give special shout outs to Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft. You know, maybe they're the sophomores. Maybe they are the the sophomores of the season so far, the sophomore award or whatever it may be. But the play of Jaden Reed and his Swiss Army utility knife type of role, and the play of Tucker Kraft really developing into a complete tight end, blocking and receiving. I do want to mention those two guys. I would probably give those guys A's for this season. If I was to give some players some A's, Tucker Kraft would be in there. Jaden Reed would be in there. Xavier McKinney would be in there. Josh Jacobs would be in there. So those would be some of the guys that I would be giving A's. But I wanted to try to figure out a way to mention Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed in this, because I think we talk about sophomore slumps. I mean, Dontavian Wicks, maybe he's in a sophomore slump. But we talk about that for some players. But we're seeing two guys who are easily showcasing why they are two of the most important players on the offensive side. And that's Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft, and they've taken some really nice jumps this year. So I wanted to throw those two guys out there too. What are some improvements that we want to see from this Green Bay team moving forward? What are some of the main improvements? I've got my top five. I've got my top five areas of improvement for Green Bay coming out of the bye week. This is the 5 things that I want this team to really focus on. The coaching staff, players. I know players are going to probably go do a little vacay or such and get out of town. But coaches are, I would imagine, maybe getting a couple days off here, but really putting into work and how they can improve for this second half of the season. This is my top 5 items that they got to improve on. Number 5, decision making. A lot of that obviously is focused on Jordan Love and his decision making, his throws, situational football. But you can expand it if you want, maybe some decisions. From play calling standpoints, decisions on who to play over who, that sort of thing. I think you could clean up a little bit on that decision making process. But for this case, I'm kind of focused more on Jordan Love. I'll throw in the interceptions on there for your decision making too. Got to clean that up, especially with your upcoming schedule here. You don't need to give extra possessions to teams like San Francisco, to Detroit again, to Minnesota a little bit later on. You don't want to give extra possessions to Chicago because Chicago's going to want nothing more than just to beat you. Depending on where they're at that point, maybe play a little spoiler, who knows. Decision making, cutting down the turnovers on the offensive side of things. Got to figure that out. Got to clean those up. That's number 5 for me. Number 4, the run defense. Now, I know if we box score scout this thing and we look at it and you're like, oh, they're not the worst. But when you watch the games, I think there's something that's just missing. And I'll keep going with this. They got to do a better job at the line of scrimmage. Defensive linemen, they've got to do a better job up there. And I know they're asked to be more aggressive and pursuing the quarterback and such, and that could open up some holes and such. But then I want better play from middle linebacker. I want some better play from the middle linebacker spot. So I'd like to see a little bit more of an improvement from the run defense. This team's getting turnovers in the secondary. They're doing a fantastic job over there. Xavier McKinney's been a big reason for that. We've seen some good play from Edrin Cooper. We've seen some good play from Evan Williams. Jair and Keyshawn, when you look at advanced numbers, they've been very good in coverage. Keep doing that. Got to get healthy for Evan Williams and Jair to get back on the field for that. But I want to see this team. And you know what? I'm going to put run defense / pressure up here too, because I think it starts with the same group, with those guys up front. We can look at quarterback hits and we can look at pressures. And I thought, There's certain games, obviously, you don't want to put too much pressure on against mobile quarterbacks and such. But it'll be interesting to see what the game plan is going to be with Chicago and Caleb Williams, who isn't afraid to be a little mobile. Brock Purdy, we'll kind of see. But then you got Tua. Obviously, he's been dealing with a lot of concussions and such, but they definitely got to get a better game plan when it comes to, or game plan, but also just better performance from their players. And they got to start winning up front. They got to start winning their one-on-ones. They got to start dominating. And other guys just got to step up. Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, Enoch Barre, those guys, step up your game. Okay? Step up your game. You step up your game, that's going to help out Rashawn Gary a little bit. Now, Rashawn Gary has been perfect, but it's clearly he is still their best pass rusher, and he's getting more of the attention and more of the focus from the opposing offensive linemen. If these other dudes would just step up and play at a high level where opposing offenses have to at least respect them a little bit, that should help out Rashawn Gary. But overall, better play up front, the front seven. How about that? Better play overall, front seven. Figure out your rotations. Eric Wilson has been a nice surprise. Edrin Cooper deserves more snaps too. Get them in position. Get them on the field, because those are guys right now who are affecting games when they get that opportunity. So that's number 4. Number 3. Been banging on this table for the last few days now, but red zone offense. Figure it out. There's too much talent on this offensive team for them to be ranked 29th in red zone offense when we just look at the touchdowns only. Touchdown percentage. We're not counting field goals in this thing. We're looking at touchdowns, because if you get in that red zone, you better be coming away with touchdowns most of the time. And right now, Green Bay's 29th. That is inexcusable for an offense that has different options to go to, whether it's Josh Jacobs, whether it's Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. You've got different types of options to go to. You got to come. I don't know what's in the red zone game plan right now. I don't know what kind of plays are in there when you dial it up, when we get inside the 20, what that call sheet looks like. I don't know if Adam Stenovich is the guy that's got the task of coming up. I know Matt LaFleur designates a lot of stuff to his assistants, and Nathaniel Hackett was that guy the first couple of years and when they were really good at red zone offense. But you got to figure it out now. I mean, whatever it is, it ain't working. And I know a lot of it is execution from the players, decision-making from Jordan Love, stop dropping passes in the red zone. There's a lot of factors to it. Red zone has to be better. You can't just always come away with field goal attempts. And the fact that I'm saying attempts instead of field goals made kind of tells you a lot of the story from beginning of this season. But you got to come away with touchdowns, especially with the tougher schedule coming up here. Red zone offense improvement. And with that, drops. Drops overall. Wicks, Reed, Dobbs, Watson, Tucker, doesn't matter. Drops overall. Cut it out. Cut it down. Those are drive killers. Those are morale killers, especially when you're on the move and you're moving the chains, you're starting to get some momentum, and you drop a ball, you drop a pass. Kills it. It just kills it. And right now they've got the dropsies, and they got to figure out how to get that thing out of there. How do they get that disease out of there? How do they get that dropsy sickness out of their team right now? Figure it out. Put extra time into the jugs machine. I don't know. Put a little extra stick them on the gloves. Who knows? But figure out the dropsies. And then the number one thing that this team has to figure out and has to be better at coming out of the bye week. Penalties. For whatever reason. If it's coaching, if it's player accountability, it's both. It's not just one thing. It's both. But these penalties is really what has been killing this offense so many times this year. So many times. If you look at it, is Green Bay the most penalized team in the league? No, they're not. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth. They're the ninth most penalized team in the league. Seattle's the most at 8.3. Green Bay's 7.3. So, I mean, when you get to this, you're talking about a difference of like 1 penalty per game. And really, there isn't a difference from home and away. I like this breakdown here. 7.4 at home, 7.3 away. Compared to last year. So Green Bay so far this year is averaging 7.3 penalties per game. Last year, 5.9. 5.9. Okay? I wish we could get a breakdown, maybe there is somewhere, of the penalties in terms of like just it's like because it feels like, and I know we hyper focus on Green Bay and that, but it feels like they come at the most inopportune times at moments when they're driving or they pick up a first down or they get backed up and then all of a sudden you're in a 3rd and 15 or they just feel like they come at the absolute worst possible time. And this team, for the most part, it just feels like they can't overcome that. They can't overcome that. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but it's something they got to figure out. Pre-snap penalties, holding penalties on the offensive line. Now, I know there's a talk, too, about is it the cadence? You know, Matt LaFleur talked about it after his game, the double cadence sort of thing. And whether the offensive linemen are getting tricked on that or what, but they got to do a better job at that. And I think, you know, that's always been a thing in Green Bay for the last couple years, last couple quarterbacks, right, is the hard count. Brett Favre was great at it. Aaron Rodgers was great at it. Jordan Love, what was the game he had earlier this year where it just felt like he was getting everybody off sides on his hard count? It's kind of been a thing. It's almost like a tradition now in Green Bay. I don't necessarily want them to dumb it down and make it an easier snap count, but I would be curious to see the difference between false start penalties with Jordan Love in at quarterback than when Malik Willis was in at quarterback, to see if there is that difference over there. But if it's a double cadence, if they're making it confusing, they got to figure it out. You can't have these pre-snap penalties anymore. That just pushes your offense back and takes out any of the momentum. Green Bay, too, when you look at it in terms of NFL team penalties, first downs per game, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth. They have the ninth most, averaging 2.1. They're actually tied with Dallas. Minnesota's right behind them, too. Knock off the stupid penalties. Just stop doing stupid stuff that keeps you from winning ball games. It's the title of the podcast from yesterday. New audio. Go check it out. Stop doing stupid stuff. You're getting in your own way. You're getting in you're shooting yourself in your own foot. You're stopping yourself from being great. You're stopping yourself from being a very good team, a top-tier team. You are the one that are holding yourselves back from this. Fix it. So that's my top 5. Again, decision-making, turnovers from the offense, front 7 defense. I'm changing. I know I said run defense first, but I'm going to say front 7 defense because you can throw in run and then pressure. Red zone offense, the drops, and penalties. Knock it off. Stop doing stupid stuff. And the thing is, a lot of this stuff, it's kind of fixable. So just stop it. All right, it is time for a little Grind My Gears. Tuesday, Grind My Gears, brought to you by ASAP Used Auto Parts. I'll tell you what's grinding my gears. It's this Milwaukee Bucks team right now. Last night, dropping another game, 6 in a row, 1-6 on this season. Last night, no Giannis, sitting out with an ab injury. Yeah, it was close. Yeah, they made a comeback. But, again, another loss. Another loss is a loss. Last night, 116-114 against the Cavs, who remain undefeated. And it's 2 back-to-back losses against the Cavs. 2 games back-to-back, 2 where it was close and went down to the wire. Damian Lillard finished with 36 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists. Bobby Portis getting in the starting lineup last night, 21 points, 18 rebounds, and 3 blocks. A.J. Green coming off the bench and contributing 21 points, especially from the three-point line. But doesn't matter if you don't come away with the W. And right now, here's a nugget from Mike Vornikov from The Athletic, national NBA basketball business reporter for The Athletic. Since 1970, 150 NBA teams have started 1-6 or worse. Just 12 of those teams made the playoffs that season, and 5 of those did that with a losing record. So 7 of the 12 teams had a winning record. None, though, won more than 47 games. If history shows us anything, it shows us that the Bucks, well, they're in big trouble. I was trying to keep it clean there and had to pause myself, but they're in some serious trouble right now. And they better figure it out here before it gets too late, before they dig themselves into a deeper hole. I mean, the start to this season has been the worst case scenario. It began before the season started. You had talking heads from national media saying teams are paying attention to the Bucks to see how well they do this year, because if they don't do well, that means the Giannis market is open. And it's almost like you got the sense like teams are rooting for the Bucks to suck, to stink this year, because that means Giannis could potentially be available, that Giannis is going to want to force himself out, and he wants to trade. So it began we began the NBA season before even tipping off a game, and that was the talking point. I mean, you had the mothership saying that's the main storyline heading into the season. Wasn't Boston defending his title? You had LeBron and his kid. But you had people from the mothership saying that's the most important story to begin the season. And right now, that talk ain't going to shut up because of how the Bucks are playing. And it's been frustrating to watch. They begin the season winning their first game against the 76ers, who are also 1-5 right now. They get a little bit of a leeway because of, well, Embiid and Paul George like missing all season so far. Bucks have been losing games with Dame and Giannis in their lineup. Chris Middleton can't be that big of a factor to where they lost to the Bulls, to where they lost to the Nets. Right? I mean, Middleton can't be that big, or is he? Losing to the Grizzlies on a back-to-back. Back-to-back for the Grizzlies. I mean, what in all world is going on with this Bucks team? It's frustrating. It stinks for a season that I think as Bucks fans, we went into it thinking championship or bust. It's championship or bust. We got to see it. We were like, okay, Dame's feeling better. He's more comfortable with the Bucks. We got a full offseason with Doc. We'll see how it factors in. It just felt like there was some positivity and like, yep, everybody's overlooking the Bucks again. Let's, catch them by surprise and let's, take it to them. And 1-6 start to begin the season. I honestly don't know if they can turn it around or make the post. I really don't. I don't. On paper they should. You look at this roster and it's like it's too good for them not to be in the postseason. And this might be one of the most epic failures of all time if this Bucks team doesn't make the postseason and they finish it with Giannis and Dame all healthy. They don't make the postseason. That might be one of the most epic failures of all time in pro sports, or at least in the NBA. I mean, this is like having a super team in the NFL or those dream teams. This is like the Jets a little bit, where you've got all this talent and you may not even make the postseason. That's what it kind of feels like. I mean, I think Bucks fans would kind of feel a little bit like the Jets right now. You got all this talent in the world. It's just not working. And you're looking at the schedule coming up here for the Bucks. You better win your game on Thursday. It's the Utah Jazz, who are also 1-6. You're at home against the Jazz. You better win that game. Because right after that, you're at the Knicks and you're home against Boston. Nobody's going to pick you to win those games. And that's going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. A big thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed or followed to the podcast yet, it'd be really awesome if you could. That way you never miss another episode. And if you could, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.